Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran. We're coming out a very beautiful morning here in Honolulu. It is trades are up. It's fantastic, and it's a great morning, I'm sure, on the West Coast as well. Rob and we have Rob Greenlee, co-host. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Doing great, Todd. It's
Well,
fantastic. It's kind of cloudy and threatening rain here, and I'm sure Chris will also see that as well since he's in the Seattle area as well.
I think it threatens rain all the time. Good morning,
Oh,
Chris. How are you?
I'm doing well with the Apple TV there.
Yeah, you like that, and
Yeah,
I'm
it's pretty sexy.
And I'm all
No,
thumbs this morning on the switcher. So, of course, we got Chris, the venerable Chris Pirillo on top. Good morning.
are we the only ones awake at this time? No,
I,
wait, hang on. There's one person in the chat room here, MG Dell. Thank you
yeah,
for
he's
being
he's
awake.
he's on the East Coast, so yeah.
Easy for him.
But so I guess what we, when we Rob and I have been on this grand adventure to bring in luminaries in the space, and Chris,
What are you doing with me then?
you've been in the space as longer than most people, and if anyone's kept a brand alive, you have, and you built a brand around yourself, of course.
You almost sound like I've got kicking and screaming. I'm just dragging it in the mud now.
No,
Come on,
it's a
come
good
on, Brand.
it's a good thing.
My dog takes offense. He's like, "What is this? I don't know what's going on. What brand?"
Yeah,
I saw a recent video you did, and I saw your dog. What breed is he?
It's a Lhasa Apso Shih Tzu poodle.
That's
oh my
a
goodness.
that's a mouthful.
I'd say.
Sounds like a mutt, right? Yeah.
He looks like he or she is a lot of fun. So
Yes.
that's cool. So Rob, it's been a fun week here. You've been busy getting stuff organized on the show. We've got some guests coming up here in the near future. Who do you have locked in for us in the coming weeks that are tentatively scheduled right now?
I've got Michael Wolf, who did the podcast project and wrote the big article in Forbes about podcasting. He's going to be on next week. Paul Colligan, who wrote the YouTube book, he's going to be on. Rob Walsh from Lipson. Tim Street, who's a longtime podcaster and content producer out of LA, and on the 25th of May, I have a fellow from the FCC to come in to talk about closed captioning on web video. So yeah, there's a bunch of folks. I'm actually booked up through almost the end of June. So
Well, that's fantastic. I've got um, I saw Tim at NAB, and of course, Tim's wearing a couple of hats right now.
yep,
And so it's cool to see that you got him on board. And Tim's got I think Tim's kind of what we would call has moved on to a new phase in life, but he's doing some cool things in the space he's in.
yep.
But good. So it sounds like a great lineup. And we've got the domain now, the newmediashow.com or newmediashow.com, one of the two, maybe both. And we're going to be setting up some email addresses directly on that the next week here. This is really kind of the second week of our rebranding of the show officially. And so, Chris, we were doing a tech show in the morning, and Rob and I were just like all the time, just kind of migrating and talking about YouTube and talking about the media space, and we made
Well,
a
wait,
decision a
isn't
couple.
that what happened the last time I did this? We talked about YouTube and that video went up and I was right.
It's it's kind of weird how this thing has evolved. So we decided to make a change. And Rob, what did you had me pull up Chris's one? I guess this is Chris's new adventure, and I wasn't familiar with it till today. Chris, tell me about Vlogger Fair.
Vlogger Fair. Yeah. Yeah, it's how do I explain it? Yeah, there you go. There's the website. So I don't know who your audience is right now,
It's
the core
everybody.
of it or the bulk of it. It's really actually, and I issued this challenge the last time and I didn't hear much in return, but I am curious to know who your audience is. Uh, Over the past year, I've been doing a daily vlog, and that would be like just a daily slice of life. Like, before we're doing this,
Yep.
I was talking to, my one of my cameras and telling my camera, I'm about to do this little podcast thingy. And that will go into an overarching 10 minutes of video that's uploaded then to my YouTube channel. And it's a vlog, a daily vlog. I've been doing it for damn near a year. And when we started doing it about a year ago, even though it has no agenda, nothing to do with technology, it's just my life, bits and pieces of my life. The day we uploaded it, remember the last time we had this conversation, I schooled you in when it comes to engagement.
Right.
Engagement's still very, very important. And this is another reason why I'm curious. If someone's out there watching this podcast or whatever, reach out to me. Let me know you're connecting. I mean, the value of doing it live is to be able to interact in the chat room too. So the people who are there, feel free to pipe up. The engagement that I got from vlogging or after doing it was just through the roof. I mean, the stats were they were so tangible. And I continue to do it every day, and saw that my connection with community, only widened and deepened from that point on. And there are a lot of people who do these vlogs or consider themselves vloggers. There are a couple of other YouTube events in the industry, rather large ones, really, but nothing that was really keen on helping people create content and actually creating the content at the event itself. So that's what Vlogger Fair is. It's basically for people who love to do vlogs, who are looking to collaborate with other people and to actually make it happen rather than just talking about, hey, we should do a collaboration. Well, we'll just do it now, do it together. So we're bringing in some of YouTube's top bloggers, including iJustine, who just signed with UTA, Shay Carl, who's actually in the process of doing a vlogging documentary that was posted to Indiegogo and back to the tune of like $160,000. Charles Trippy, a rock star in his own right. Prank versus Prank, or also known as Boyfriend versus Girlfriend. These are huge YouTubers, like 1 million plus subscribers or so. So I'm small potatoes with less than 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. These are the big guns. However, it's not necessarily about the subscriber count; it's about the connection that you have with your community. Talked about this last time I was on here too. Your community connection, that organic community connection, is ultimately the thing that's going to spell, your ongoing success or you just disappearing into nothing. And vlogging, if you've got especially if you have a cult of personality about you, vlogging helps increase that engagement that you have with your community. And it did it in a way that I could not have predicted, but I knew that by putting a finer point on it, by doing an event. Number one, I get to meet the top vloggers in real life. And number two, I get to encourage people who are trying to figure out vlogging to start vlogging. Now, here's what's interesting that came out of it. So the business model with vlogging is also very important for me. I haven't, I can't do anything if I feel like it doesn't really fit to the core of what I want to do as a career, whatever the career happens to be. But I found out that, I didn't even realize it, but I tried this tomato basil tea the other week. It got sent in some kind of care package, and I tried it, and I was blown away. I'm like, damn, dude, this is really, really good. So I said, I'm having some tomato basil tea. Didn't mention really who it was from, no brand or anything, but I ordered more, and it came in these cartons of tomato basil tea. And not a paid endorsement or anything like that. And it turns out they reached out to me and they said, could we send some of the tea to Vlogger Fair? You've actually gave us a pretty good bump in sales, because that's what blogging does. It's just like a reality show. You see product, it's product placement, and brands need to be hip to it. The problem is no brands are hip to it. It's been like pulling teeth to get them to come along with YouTube. And unfortunately, I can only spend so much time either creating content, curating content, or managing the business side of things. The bigger play specifically with vlogging is, continuing down the path of sharing that personal narrative, but also crossing it over with brand and product placement.
So I guess bring the question back to you from, is it going to pay the bills, or is it at this point, is it something that you're just continuing to do on your own, and no matter what
if I continue down this path, it absolutely will. The bigger challenge is, I'm not a salesperson and a content creator. I have to be both.
Right.
And that unfortunately makes me weak in both spots.
Yeah.
So I'm much happier in helping facilitate, sales. In fact, you talk about Tim Street. He's helping, doing some brand outreach. We've got some brands who are already aboard, Yelp, um, it can't. They were thrilled to do something like this because they're in their space. Videos. It's not just the next thing; it is the thing, right? YouTube is the discovery vehicle. We've got a couple of the brands that haven't quite fully signed yet, so I can't talk about them, but they're well on their way. Suffice it to say, the first year of doing any event is going to be the hardest. So getting attention out has been the biggest hurdle that we've had. But that being said, we got the top YouTubers who are coming up here. Come hell or high water, it's happening. It's the question of how many people are actually going to know about it, and the price, of course, is extremely reasonable. $29 for general access. I think $99 for VIP, and I'm finding some software licenses to throw to VIPs. I think vlogging is a huge opportunity lying in wait for smarter sponsors. Unfortunately, it takes time to find those smarter sponsors. And when I'm busy building a community, I don't always have the ability to close the loop with smarter brands. I luck into it. I get random projects that might happen. Just wrapped up something with Campbell's Soup Company. Of course did a stint with Reese's a couple years ago. About to start something with British Airways, and these are things that happen because you put your life out there. Interesting things happen. Capture it, document it, and brands want to attach themselves with that.
Go ahead, Rob.
So you're almost making like a reality show around yourself. So it's really kind of tapping into that personal brand thing, that we see on Bravo and those kind of things, and those big kind of Uber trends.
Sorry, can you repeat that? You kind of cut out there at the beginning.
Oh, I did. Yeah. So it seems like, this whole personal branding thing is a big part of what you're doing here. And can really anyone do this, do you think, or do they need to establish some sort of a unique aspect to their kind of angle on what they're doing in order to build an audience?
Nah, it's not about audience. It's about community. And yes, anybody
well,
can.
sure.
Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's refining how you tell that story. It's connecting with people who appreciate the story that you're telling. And really, the only rule to it is listen to your community, right? It's ultimately what's going to kind of keep you going forward.
Mm-hmm.
What I've done recently is my kids have, they're starting to wanting to explore with the media space. And I bought some heroes, and they've been having a lot of fun with them. Probably spent more money than I should have on them, but hey, that's the way it goes. And so my son's getting ready to put up his first couple of clips, and we're working trying to have him, really kind of start out correctly. What's your besides going and doing it,
Just
which
do
is the most important.
That's always my advice. Just do it. You're going to find out what you like. You're going to find out your workflow. You're going to figure that out. Ultimately with vlogging, it's being yourself and treating that camera as though it was another person.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't connect to it as a physical object. You connect to it as an intimate object. You have to understand that when you put video out there, you are essentially in people's lives. And when you vlog, you're more than just entering someone's home. You're entering their heart, and you've got to treat that as a very special relationship. Yeah, it's very personal, very interpersonal.
Yeah. And I think though some people, it takes a certain amount of charisma. You have as much charisma as anybody, but I think that a lot of folks maybe don't have.
Wicked disagrees, by the way. You hear him barking, that he's like, "What? Dad has no charisma."
So that's a big part of it, though. You have to be appealing to the audience. If you're not, they're not going to watch, right?
You know what? People are attracted to different things for different reasons. That's all I can say. There is no formula for what is successful because everybody measures success differently.
When there's 500 people hanging out in your chat room and you're not there, that you've got some engagement going on. And
I'm sitting in the dark, although I pulled the mic up on the live stream. I don't know if anybody realizes that. In fact, I was talking to Rob. I've had that. There's still chat that's active on on my live stream. I just haven't done much with it because I just don't have time. Like I ended up selling like a pretty good chunk of change the first year we did a live stream. I sold pretty well, but the problem is that I just couldn't keep up. It was easy enough to sell the concept, but it became so hard to do the way that I knew it needed to happen. I can't scale my time. So while I'm fine with keeping the live stream up, it's usually the audio is muted 9 times out of 10. Or actually, let me go even further. 364 days out of the year, the audio feed is muted. Because I just can't. I just can't keep up because otherwise, the chat room pulls me in, and I'm honestly, it's not that I'm wasting time because I love doing it. The problem is I've got to do like 13 other things, and I've had. We experimented with this last year. I launched a service for people that were trying to get my advice, and I get that all the time. People ask for advice all the time. I'm happy to give it, but if you're asking me for business intelligence, you're gonna pay. Like I'm not just gonna hand it to you. Like
Right.
here, yeah, my time is free. My time is not free. No one's time is free. I'm not a communist. So sorry, my dog is just going.
It's okay.
ape
Don't
in the
worry.
background, or dog in the background. Hey, Wiki. You want to join us? So
He's got something to say.
Yeah, he's like, "Good, I'm getting my own podcast. That's it. I'm done. Forget it."
Hey, Chris, I think you found a new idea. A dog.
We
dog
tried it
blogger.
actually.
Dog blogger.
I got a hold of a GoPro myself and put it around the one of the dog's necks, but it was just the video is so shaky. I couldn't use much of the footage. People got a kick out of it though. They said, "Oh, you should do it more often." I'm like, I'm not going to upload a video that is intentionally crappy. I don't care how the perspective is. I might try it again and see what comes of it. But anyway, I have geeks who come into the watch me at my home office, and they've asked, well, could you have a radio stream going on? I'm like, well, then it's music that not everybody wants to listen to, but they want to tune in because they want to, they were talking, technology or geeky, or they want to, connect with one another. So what we did was we put a TeamSpeak server up over the video feed, and so people who were subscribed to the NoMe's service could jump in. It just turned out that personality clashes and conversations that just were not just irrelevant, but just pointless. So I just turned it off. I'm like, I'd rather have a muted stream than something that's just mindless babble, mindless babble isn't always that bad if it's interesting mindless babble. When it's just absolute mindless smack talk because you're playing games with someone that no one else can see, it's pointless. So it's still a possibility of me being able to, and I talked to Rob about this as well. Like if I had talent, like I've got enough community that's looking to be served by him. I just don't have I don't have enough bandwidth to do it. And certainly, when it comes to, where's the value and in any kind of revenue potential, I mean, it's still there, but I just can't. It works, but it works differently than it used to. YouTube's got a lion's share of my attention for a reason.
When I first started this show, or actually my regular show that I did back in 2004, I basically committed to 2 shows a week, and that has been sustainable for me. And I've known guys that were doing 5 shows a week, and some of those, and when I say shows, they're putting an episode up every day. And those guys lasted about 4 years before they absolutely hit the wall. So I guess the question I have for you, you're vlogging every day. Yeah. So how much time? What is your allocation for that? Is it an hour? Or do you record?
To edit the video? Yeah.
Do you record
it all day? You
just record throughout the day?
Yeah, all day. I'm not intentionally interrupting you, Todd. I'm Italian. Not that that's an excuse.
No, it's okay.
I kind of know where you're going with it too. It takes time, but anything worth building is going to take time, and that's something that you got to be mindful of. How much is too much, how little is too little. Ultimately, you want to leave people wanting more. You don't want to give them too much, and I've learned that too, because you're just oversaturating. You're nothing special.
Yeah.
Like I'll only go live on YouTube now when I'm unboxing a piece of hardware, because I know that ultimately that live video is going to live on well past the time that it's live. Its shelf life is extended because I did it live, and people are willing to watch it, possibly a longer video if it's got more content that they're interested in, specifically around a product. And so I experimented even this past week with doing a live review of the Surface Pro because it was just stressing me out. I'm like, I hate doing reviews. I hate doing reviews. Hate them. But the problem is that a lot of my core geek audience wants that. That's what they want.
Right.
And I can't. I've struggled with how to be able to give them what they want, more of me, more of what they want from me, while at the same time not killing myself. So I'm still looking for that winning formula of how to pull it off. And unboxing is not stressful at all. You unbox, you show it, like, ooh, look at this. Initial impressions, not stressful at all. A review is where it starts to get stressful for me.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you really have to dive into the details of the product, so that would make it tough.
So, yeah, Rob. But the way I try to do it, and I set the stage as much as I can. I'm like, you know what? You can read a spec sheet on any web page. I'm not going to go over this, that, and the other thing because you've already read it. You probably know it forwards and backwards. I'm going to tell you my experience with each one of these particular components of, and then that helps me get that kind of rubric, helps me get through a review. Usually there are times, I mean, like any kind of Android phone, I'll do this. A phone, if a phone comes in, I'll do it because that's what the people, they're searching for phones more and more and more and more and more and more. Computers are dead as far as like a lot of consumers are concerned. There's like, unless you've got a big brand around it, like Microsoft, that's the only time you're going to get velocity, or Apple. Like I'm guaranteed that if I do something around Apple, it's going to be a win. If I do something around Microsoft, it's going to be a win. If I do something around Google, it's going to be a win. Everything else, it's unless it's really unique, like the Oculus Rift, it's a crapshoot. So why spend that much time on something that ultimately you're serving a good chunk of your audience, but only a fraction of them really care. And what happened with vlogging, I put it into the same YouTube channel because part of what makes our YouTube channel what it is because of me. And that's what people are drawn to, is that personality. So vlogging works within our channel, and some people have complained, like, I don't care about vlogs, you should put it in another channel. I'm like, well, here's the thing. The vlogs get better traction on a regular, consistent basis than half the tech stuff that I do. So if anything, I would put my technology content in another channel. That's just, I can't argue with the numbers. No one can argue with the numbers. I don't know what to tell you.
I noticed watching a couple of your videos that you've gotten very good at videoing yourself. What are you using? Are you using a pole with an iPhone? What's your?
It's just a super wide angle lens attached to a point and shoot camera. It's a modification that a company makes. They're actually going to be at Vlogger for HD Hat. I'm sorry.
Show that up again.
It's just a point and shoot camera with a modified super wide angle lens, so I can just hold it right here and not have to worry too much about anything.
Right. You need to put. Have you done a piece on that? Because that.
Oh yeah, I've done it before, and it doesn't matter. I'll put a link in every god blessed description, and inevitably some idiot will ask. Sorry, not to call someone an idiot, but it's just like, my God, if it was a snake, it would have bit you. Like,
but believe it or not,
I put it out there intentionally because people ask these things
again
over
and again and again.
And over again. Because but I don't blame you. I'm just saying that yes, I have. I've said it before enough times that it gets to a point where I don't want to say it anymore because I realize the value for this company is greater than what I'm getting from the company, which is that fine line. But it also speaks to, the value of sponsorship or deeper product placement and engagement. Unfortunately, not a lot of the companies out there are hip to that, or they don't see the value in it. Unfortunately, GoDaddy is one of those companies.
Just recently when I was at NAB, the guy that got the most attention from people walking the floor was basically had a rig with a monopod. It basically had an iPad, and it's called the Padcaster, and he did a Kickstarter to get it going, and people were fascinated with this guy's rig, even the broadcast folks, and I kind of giggled because I said to him when I was up at his booth, I said, I bet you that, because all they do is they sell the rig. They don't sell the lens. They don't sell the accessories. And I said, I bet you your number one email that comes in is, what is your what is your setup? What should I buy to go along with
Yep.
this thing? And he says, yep. And he says, I have a tiny URL link. I know it by heart. And it's basically, he just types it in and hits reply. And he says, I probably do that 50 times a day. And I'm like,
Yep.
and I said, it's probably linked right in front of your website too. And he says, yep, but people will email before they,
Doesn't matter. Yep. Because you know why? You're Google. And that's fine, because that's
Right.
actually the future of search is going to be through social. It's not going to be through search engines. It's easier to ask someone a question than it is to ask a search engine. So people will. They
Yeah.
do, and they will.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about this past week, we're on this side of the fence where we're doing our own content, doing our own thing. We don't have these big newsrooms. What was your with everything going on in Boston this past week? How'd you think the mainstream media did? Do you think they completely lost their minds, or did
I
they?
think they did fair, but I think they also starting to get cut out of the picture. I mean, I look at my own patterns. I look at other people's patterns. And granted, a lot of people will say, well, the time for punditry and saying that old media is dead is not the time during a crisis. I say, well, I think it is,
Right.
because, I tuned into the scanner, directly using an app on my, on my computer here that I've got in my hands, this pocket computer right
Right.
here. The tuned into a scanner and listened, and I just kind of watched Twitter, watch hashtags and users. And I mean, the problem is, you tune into media and it's just someone babbling on and on about some idiot sitting in the desk asking questions that can't be answered. Like,
Right.
I was what CNN or something I tuned into. And
Yeah, CNN was the worst this time.
well,
Yeah.
they were babbling on there. They said, what was it? It was he asked someone the question. The guy had finally been captured. He's in the hospital. A reporter standing in front of the hospital. The guy behind the desk at headquarters or whatever, guy with a British accent, says, "So, do they know? How long he's going to take to recover? Do they know?" And he's asking questions. And I'm thinking, no one knows that. Like, it's like it just happened. How could they possibly? Where are you getting these questions from? It was just like that's where the media is, right? They're chasing the ball, and they're just filling time. And I don't
Yeah.
think you have the same need to fill time with social media. You don't have to fill time; it just happens. And granted, there's a lot you have to filter out. I mean, listening to the police scanner, you gotta filter out a lot, and you gotta think, okay, what's relevant, what's not. But by listening to it, I was able to find out that the perp was captured before it was announced on CNN. Minutes before I found out that way.
I
Yeah, it
was
also
So
seemed like that the being really right and accurate was really valued more this time than I think we've seen in the past. And I thought that the NBC News folks were more accurate about what they were reporting than some of these other news agencies that were just flying ahead with speculation
well,
and yeah.
yeah, all they're doing is they're reading Twitter anyway. So why
Yeah.
tune in to someone who's reading Twitter? Just read Twitter, for Christ's sake.
one of the things that I did is, I was being that we're 6 hours behind, and I got a text. I woke up in the morning and looked at my phone, and basically said, "Have you heard the news?" And I didn't load CNN or turn the TV on. The first thing I did was just load my Twitter stream and see what was trending, and really within about 30 seconds, I kind of knew, and that was, just rolling. As a matter of fact, I was still in bed. I wasn't even out of bed yet, and so for me, there's this new thing that's being talked about in the space about data journalism, and these guys that are doing nothing but doing journalism from data streams like Twitter and on Google Plus and so forth. And you have to have some serious tools to do that. Some of the stuff that's out there, people are using like Hootsuite and some other things are okay, but they're really, to me, if I want to be able to aggregate and find content and stuff like that, it's more difficult. To me, it's still a lot. And maybe I'm just old school, but for me, it's just a lot easier to be subscribed to my top 25 sites I want to look at, and I buzz through those in 5 minutes. I'm kind of caught up. I don't know what's your process these days, Chris?
Social.
Just on social. So where are you hanging out then? Twitter, Google Plus, all the above?
Sure. I mean, it's all the same to me. YouTube, for as much as I produce content, I do digest content, but it's usually when someone sends a link, or I happen upon a link. It's rarely that I'm just surfing YouTube randomly, but YouTube is I mean, for video, YouTube is like number one. TV's absolutely a distant number two.
So are you using any specific programs or anything like that to help you
Not really.
process?
I do a daily tech video thing, but it's not. I'm I'm very aware that the stuff that I'm interested in, not everybody that I'm talking to is necessarily interested in, which is a bit depressing. But I'm very mindful of the bulk of the audience that reacts to the things they react to, why and how, and I tailor a lot of the content I do around the core of my community that way. So
Mhm.
I'll watch for things that I think are more titillating for them than are for me.
Chris, do you have your own app now? And what other ways of distributing your content are you using nowadays? I know that you have a couple of podcast feeds. I mean, you have an audio and
Yeah,
video
I've
podcast.
got one I think podcasts are dead. Quite honestly, I've zero bupkis for engagement. And unless you're like a This American Life or an Adam Carolla, what's the point? Like you're going after a community that is so infinitesimally small and maybe targeted, but it's irrelevant. Sorry, my dog just keeps
It's okay.
Wiki. So sorry. Unfortunately my wife is in Texas, so I can't have her button him up. I may actually disappear, go grab him, sit him down.
Now, one thing it's interesting
Really?
because we see two, two trains of thoughts too. When we get podcasters on here and they talk about stuff, they're seeing, monumental growth. They're seeing their audiences. They're seeing engagement, and it goes back to the conversation that you and I had before. That there are, don't worry, he's gonna go grab the dog. Yeah, that wasn't it. It was hey, that was cool.
Yeah.
You notice
Well,
you notice I got a ray of light coming in here, Rob, where I have my shades
yeah,
of
well, yeah, that's been going on with you for a while now. You have that one little hole in your blinds that
yeah,
actually
that
it
feeds through.
usually kind of hits you right in the forehead.
Well,
Sorry.
we
Okay.
started an hour later, so the light is right there on my shoulder right now. So if I lean over into it, I'll have it straight in the face.
So Todd, continue.
So
The bifurcation, podcasting.
just it's the same thing. We're still seeing this split. We're seeing the guys that are doing on YouTube are doing really well, and podcasters are doing real well. There's two camps, and and I don't think there's any answer for it anymore. I think it's just it's two different audiences. I really truly believe that.
I don't know. I think it's the same audience. Some people, podcasting is great for commuters, honestly, and it works for commuters.
Well, they think the majority of people, the average commute in the United States, 30 minutes.
Sure.
So
It's good. Yeah, it's pretty long.
I mean, all I do is basically, I think we're still using Blip TV because it's easy and it's affordable for creating MP3s. But we distribute, I guess, the podcast through audio and video there. But we bupkis for numbers, nothing.
Well,
Mouse.
one of the challenges, and this is something you should look at too with Blip, is, and just as a word of caution, anything that's being fed from them on an RSS feed that's linked to them is throttled. So the experience from a video standpoint, if someone's trying to watch your show from that feed, they're going to be sorely disappointed. Now, if they're watching in the player itself, the player's fine. But
Well,
if
it's just all you do is they're downloading and they're syncing it like
a
background
lot
stuff.
of people are, it depends
Clicking
on
just play, right?
yeah, clicking is play. So it depends on the.
I don't see that happening. That's happening on YouTube.
I don't know about that. It's just, the stats we
I'm pretty
see.
confident about that. I'd
Well-
be shocked. Who's
Well, it's
watching this
actually-
video?
Well,
Who's listening to this podcast?
let's be really clear. I think it's happening in both places, and
Right.
certainly it's happening a lot on YouTube for certain types of content.
Right.
And I think it's happening a lot on the podcasting side for certain types of content. So I think that there is a break in audience and the demographic of the user. I think that the YouTube user tends to be quite a bit younger than the typical podcast user.
Yeah.
And I think
my demographics they actually skew older, male, not younger. As much as the younger audience is very they're very interactive.
Yeah.
I've seen that our stats are either it's kind of like this hump, right in the middle. Males ages 33 to 40 seem to be a good chunk of the audience. Of course, by vlogging, I increased my female demographic massively.
Yeah, the 18 to 25, 26 crowd is definitely not a demographic that's consuming podcasts. I can tell you that. They're not
I,
there.
I just don't see anybody consuming podcasts anymore. I
Well,
mean,
you would be,
I'm sure they do.
I'm tracking 13,000 plus shows, plus some of the major networks that are doing podcasts. We're running their stats as well. And you would be shocked at the
Uh,
millions and millions of downloads that are happening
yeah.
across
Yeah. And
platforms.
Libsyn just reported their quarterly traffic, and from what I recall, I think it's doubled since last year.
Yeah, the
So
numbers are way, way, way up. We're seeing double digit audience increases every quarter.
Huh.
So
Well, then I guess I've been seeing shrinkage.
I think it's the audience, Chris. I really think it depends on who your audience is and where they are being told to consume the content.
well, and
No, I think people are going to find the
also,
content no matter where it is.
but also, Chris, it's where you're putting your energies too. You're putting most of your focus on creating community within YouTube, right? And that's where you're putting your focus, right? I mean, you have podcast feeds. I mean, I have them in the Zune catalog, and I promote them. And I think that if you were able to promote both more equally, I think you would get more activity in the
Yeah, but
podcasting side.
if I had a reason to promote more both more equally, I would. But right now, there's no reason to promote a podcast.
And
It just isn't.
what's the reason why you say that?
I just sales
Uh,
are not
it's
there.
it's tied back to the monetization.
Oh yeah, of course. It's always going to be about monetization. I mean, you can do it for catharsis, sure, but it's far easier to do it on YouTube than it is to pursue your own audience. That's the
Well,
problem. There are more
yeah,
people who don't know about you than who do know about you. So unless you have an amazing platform to jump off of, you're better off going with the culture of community. And unfortunately, that is not having your own podcast.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree. And in largely,
You think more people know about you than don't know about you?
no. I'm saying from where I launched and for where my show's at, I know where my audience is, and I know they're not on YouTube. When my podcast audience is 100,000 to 1 on YouTube, quite literally, that's where am I going to put my energies?
Well,
It's if it's 100 if it's
I never heard
100,000
anything. Our last thing that we did, I never heard anything
from but the thing
from
is,
anybody.
so put your information out there, and we'll see if people reach out after the show. This is, you got to understand.
That's what I'm saying. It's
You
a
got to
challenge.
understand.
Like,
This show is a different consume show. It's consumed by content creators who are largely creating media. So we'll see if they provide you feedback, and I hope that they do.
Maybe okay. Here's their feedback. If they actually have a different story with their podcast, because I've seen it slide nowhere but downhill in favor of going to YouTube. Because like I'm just telling you, it's just unless you've got an amazing platform to leap off of, and you've got a traditional outlet or a big enough name, it just doesn't work.
Rob, what you think?
Well, I think playing the card of one against the other, and one is so much better than the other, I think is maybe a little biased, Chris. I think that podcasting has its place in the media scope, and people are seeing success with it. There's been lots of recent kind of coverage in the media and the press and the Forbes and other places that are talking to content producers out there that are finding success with it. So I guess it depends on what
who.
But Chris, here's another thing too. We're running more advertising campaigns right now than we ever have. But the advertisers are being very specific on who they want in their advertising campaigns. And when I have 2,000-3,000 shows on advertising buys at any given time, running campaigns from a variety of different vendors. Dine just wrapped up a huge campaign that we ran with them. and they're evaluating the campaign and see if they're going to come back. And then, we've had all of our other traditional advertisers been in the space for a long time. And it's an interesting space. I couldn't survive on YouTube revenue. There's just no way. Even if I was
Most
doing
people
the
couldn't.
same
Yeah,
volume, even
most
if I was
people
doing the
couldn't.
same volume I'm doing on my regular weekly show, it just wouldn't. I'd have to get another job, quite frankly. So I don't know. I think people are finding success in a variety of platforms. And the thing is, what I'm really focused on now for people is I don't want to pit podcasting against YouTube. I don't think that's even a discussion point anymore. What I'm trying to say is people are consuming on all glass. They're consuming wherever and whenever they find the content, whether it be through iTunes, whether it be through a podcast app, whether it be through someone's website, whether it be on Roku, Roku numbers are incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible, the growth on the Roku side. Google TV's a close second. Boxy, nowhere to be seen. It's non-existent. Samsung TV, we're seeing growth. So it all depends on where people want to consume the content. I think as long as they find it. I don't
Right.
care. I don't
That's the
care.
thing.
I don't care how they find it, as long as they find it.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree with that. And what I'm saying is that there are more people who don't know who you are than do know who you are.
Oh, absolutely. That's for
That's
sure.
so for that angle alone, the lion's share of attention. I mean, I'm not saying that it's a podcasting versus YouTube thing, but in terms of trends and a greater culture awareness, YouTube is just, the barrier to entry is far lower. The gains are far greater, because what happens when you talk about advertising, what it usually boils down to is an affiliate program.
But I think
And that's not advertising.
But I
An
think
affiliate program is not advertising.
I think for 99.999% of YouTube users, they'll never make a penny. For 99.99%, they'll never make a dollar. They may make a buck, but I will say this: that is not true in the podcasting space. You have a much greater, and it may not be thousands of dollars. It may be take your wife out to dinner money, but most people are not even making take your wife out to dinner money on YouTube.
I guess the landscape. Pardon me.
That's okay.
The landscape shifted, and I just don't see. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking differently about how people are consuming podcasts, but they're typically consuming from the larger brands with higher production values and like the This American Lifes, and those who've got an NPR, and they rule the roost, or
They
Twit.
don't. They don't.
Anybody who's got those larger brands that tied into it, they're absolutely doing well.
You'd be shocked. You'd be shocked at the numbers that.
Yeah, I would
are
be,
doing.
because I'm well. Then what I've been doing for the past X years has been incorrect, because I just don't see it.
Rob, where do you see growth on your side? I know what you're going to say, but where are you seeing growth?
Well, I see growth on the audio side, Chris, and I think that's the big difference between what we're talking about here, is that you're talking about kind of snack food video in YouTube versus longer form audio content that is replacing radio, and I think that's where these lines don't cross.
True.
And I think
that's fair. That's fair. That's
yeah.
fair. I like that idea. I just don't know how to better encapsulate it. I mean, YouTube takes care of a lot of stuff, or if a sponsor lead comes in, I can facilitate a lot of the stuff. I mean, you talk about having an app. I've got 30,000 users on, free app for both iOS and Android. I use Mobile Roadie as a platform. They basically have the tools or the plumbing upon which I can build this app. 80% opt-in push notifications, which is just astounding. Even for Mobile Roadie, they said, we've never seen a number like that before. And in there, I've got, the ability, people can listen. Where is it? I've got the podcast feed right here. The right there. There's a little podcast feed. Look at that. Oh,
hey,
yeah,
everybody, I'm Chris Pirillo, and this is your Geek Out for Friday, August 10th, 2012.
Something like that. So people can listen to whatever, but people aren't listening to it.
So it's
I mean,
called
and I've got 30,000 users, and the icon right freaking there. They're not listening to it.
it's Mobile Rodeo. Is that what you're using?
Mobile Roadie.
Roadie. Ah.
Roadie.
Yeah, you can build your own app, distribute it, it control as much of the experience as possible. But it was the easiest, best way for me to get an app done.
Yeah, it sounds like
And
it.
the biggest value of having an app these days is for push notifications. Because so when we upload a new YouTube video, we'll send out a push.
Right.
When we send out, or when we do a YouTube live, we send out a push notification. Because then people are on their mobile, they're on their computer here, and then go, oh, I can listen. Boom. Yeah, if I knew the model, or if I had the model nailed, doing a longer form audio program, if I knew what
Well,
that
Chris,
was, what it sounded like, but it just takes. The question is who's listening.
Doesn't have to
And-
have it doesn't have to be a longer format audio show. It can be short, but that's where I think 95% of the folks that are monetizing through at least the podcasting space are. Let's see if I can.
Well, Chris, let's go back in time a little bit. I mean, you used to do a live kind of
Yeah.
audio show. Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun.
And
I love doing live.
Yeah, and you were a very early podcaster too, and I know that's how we met, and that's how we kind of maintain our relationship is around kind of the whole podcasting space. And I see this ebb and flow around the podcast area now, where I totally agree with you. Over the last 3 or 4 years, the podcast kind of area has been a little plateaued and not much is going on. But what we're seeing happen like over the last 4 to 6 months is that things are starting to really turn around. And I think it has been driven by mobile phone usage of consuming this content.
I want to show you guys. I want to show you guys something, and this is I've got permission to show this guy's stats because he's consented with me to do this, and I want to show you guys stats. This is a show that is basically it's a podcast based around a television program. It's called the Audacity to Podcast, and if you look at this guy's trending month to month from when he started his show, and this is going back from June of 2010 through now March of 2013, you can see his growth. But if you look at the distribution standpoint, it's podcatchers, web browsers, mobile web browsers, tablets and pads, mobile applications. Then anonymous, we really don't know what it is, TV set boxes. So that breaks down by basically stuff like iTunes having 46%, the web browsers having 19%, the mobile web browsers having 14%, the tablets having 9.7%, and then, believe it or not, the mobile application at 5.8%. So, every show is a little different depending on what type of apps they have. But, the main thing here is that people are still coming in and getting this content largely on iTunes, iPhone, iPad, but they're coming in with browsers too, and a pretty big swath. So if we look at, on the first part, iTunes was 37% of audiences, iPhone was 11%, iPad was 9%, and then Firefox was at 7%. But I see some shows that have 7 and 5 for Chrome, and then IE is probably right there behind. So, they have a pretty good, utilization still. So, people are getting stuff on all the different devices. And if I go and bring up the full list, it lists everything that is consuming his content. And that's over 100. And in his particular list, he's got 80 different devices or clients that are consuming the content. And he's got an audience that, well, let's look at the map here. And he's got a pretty, he's largely probably mostly American speaking, but it is largely in the United States, the majority of it. So, I think from our perspective.
So is he doing video too, or is this just audio talk?
He does both. He does audio and video. Let me look at his episodes and see. Yeah, a mix. Now, if you look at his split, the high majority of his audience is on the audio side. A high majority. It's probably 20 to 1, from a maybe 10 to 1 from a perspective. So, this guy's got a pretty typical show. He's not he's not a rock star, but he's not he's not a small show either. But he's a rock star in his specific category. Definitely, he owns that particular category. So I think it also has a lot to do with, what your category of content and who your audience is. So, he's got
Yeah.
a niche audience there.
Yeah, and also, is he using YouTube as an alternative distribution platform for him?
That I don't know. I'd have to ask him. He's pretty heavy into this distribution type. I would imagine he's on YouTube. Let's go over and look and see if he's on YouTube. I can look it up real quick. But I think his is a typical story. He's been creating content now for 3 years, and he's built an audience slowly, just like anybody else would. And let me see the Audacity. And believe it or not, that's not even his biggest show. Yeah, he's on YouTube. So, let me look here. Okay, here's an example of a recent episode he put up on YouTube, and he's got 186 views. So,
Sure, because no one's looking for that information.
well, they're looking for it. They're looking for it in different locations. So he's built an audience in a different platform. But YouTube is usually the place people go for tutorials. But here he's got
I think
tutorials.
YouTube's a destination for a lot of types of
That's
Oh, it
true.
information.
It's
and
true.
content.
It's true.
Clearly, yeah.
But here's a guy that's
Is this a longer form show? And I think you hit the nail on the head there.
14 minutes.
Form.
14 minutes is his
Mhm.
length. So again, it's one of those things where this guy's widely followed. He's got a nice audience, and it's not. And again, it's not the biggest audience. It's not the smallest, but he's pretty typical. And he's making money, and he's a full-time content creator, and he doesn't get, obviously he's not doing full-time with 186 views on YouTube. So, but here he does audio and video. I don't know. I think it's for the most part, and again, going back to what I said earlier, I think it's all about, I just want my content to be everywhere, and where my audience chooses to
I
pick
don't
it.
disagree. I just find that having my content everywhere, Todd, just seems that no one wants to experience it in a podcast form.
It's interesting because it's in Rob. We talk about this all the time. We see this again and again and again, don't we?
Yeah, and it's really, really baffling to us what's going on here. I don't know that we all have good research that can tell us what we're seeing here and what's going on here. I think this is the
in terms of what? Sorry, Rob.
I think it's like
there's two camps.
And how does this break out based on genre of content and personality, right?
Yeah.
I think, Chris, you have a very unique personality that I think would do very well on YouTube. And I think you're smart for playing in that space and being there and exposing your personality and your way of creating content. I think it fits perfectly with the demographic of the user base of YouTube. But I also feel at the same time that you can find success in podcasting too. I think because podcasting thrives on that as well. I think good content will thrive in any distribution platform. It just depends on whether or not it's equally billed and promoted to the audience.
And I think too I don't think as a face personality, I don't think I've got a face for YouTube. But people don't listen to my show's not about watching. It's about listening, and you're doing very visual things in your content. So it's about watching. It's not about listening. So if I want to see Chris Pirillo, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to his website. I'm going to go to his YouTube channel. I don't think I personally would subscribe to Chris Pirillo on a podcast because I want to watch you. You don't want to watch me. You want to listen to me.
But I think it comes back to not just the audience finding you. And I think there's going to be more going to find you elsewhere than in a podcast. But I think it speaks to the trend of short form versus long form. and and having something that people want to listen to.
No, that's right.
I lose attention quickly if I'm listening to something. Even
Right.
if I'm like, I love This American Life. It's like #1 for me. But sometimes I'm just like, I don't have the patience.
And I don't know how people listen to me for an hour and 15 minutes either. But they do, and I'm like, okay.
How do you know they do? How do you know they listen all the way through? How do you know they're not just downloading it?
Because I do prompters throughout the show. I say, why don't you tell me what you think about this, or why don't you tell me? And I get emails.
Really?
And, yeah, absolutely.
I didn't get a single email last time.
So so we got to ask people, what do you think about Chris's opinion? Do you guys have an opinion on what Chris is saying here on the division?
And we probably need to put out our email addresses in the show, because I don't believe that we're actually doing that.
Yeah.
So mine's everywhere. You can find mine in the Twitter profile, and I mentioned
it's same with me too.
Oh, now.
So look Chris Pirillo up and give him a piece of your mind. Tell him what.
Google,
right.
Give me a piece of your mind. I'm happy to listen, because
unload on him.
Convert me.
And I think too is in the engagement thing is highly important, and I think what I've seen too from an engagement standpoint, and a lot of times when advertisers come to me, they say, okay, I want your biggest shows, and I have to gently, kindly tell them, no, you're going to take a mix of shows, and the reason for it is oftentimes I'll find a small show that has 2,000 or 3,000, maybe 4,000 listeners. That on a per episode basis that are going to be heavily, heavily, heavily engaged, and they're going to have this huge response to whatever the call to action is. And then I have shows that have a audience size of 50,000 or per 100,000 per episode, and they muster almost equally the same type of engagement that the small show does. So sometimes, believe it or not, I like to have campaigns where it's nothing but smaller shows, and we end up getting higher engagement rates because the audiences are more niche. Yeah. They're more.
That's what I'm saying. I agree, Todd. It's that level of engagement. I mean, we'll go back to the watch the one that we did last time. It was this engagement.
But what
completely in line with you. It's more important to have those people.
But what pays the bills is volume, and if you have if you have an engaging audience that has volume, you're going to do fantastic no matter what space you're in.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Unless you have that volume initially, sponsors aren't interested.
That's where we've come in, and that's where we found our niche, is basically saying, hey, you don't have to worry. We will build the volume package for you. And but then you have
now you have my interest, because I do engagements based on sponsorship models.
Right.
That's what I do, right? If I know that there's, if someone came to me and said, we want to do X, I'm like, okay, well, it'll cost you Y. And we figure it out. It's simple math. The problem is that unless you have that connection there, I'm not going to, the question is, how much content do you create to predict having numbers that are going to be impressive to get to the numbers that you're looking for to match the expectations of the particular sponsor. And that's where, you get locked into this, well, we'll pay you for every lead. No, F you won't. Like, the problem is that you're latching and you're asking for free advertising at that point, and that's not something that some of us are willing to give.
What we're finding, and what is the the case is an advertiser can go to YouTube and they can buy YouTube at $6 all day long. They can buy a remnant inventory for pennies per thousand. I mean, it's really ridiculous how low it is. So, that's
why I find sponsors, Todd.
So then if you find when a sponsor comes in, then they're used to, especially the digital folks, they're used to paying so much. So it's a whole, it's the same thing that's been going on for years. It's a whole training purpose, and you have to justify the higher CPMs that we charge. And our CPMs are not ridiculous. Our CPMs are what I feel are realistic and what I hope will generate good ROI for the advertisers so that they'll come back. I can charge them a huge amount of money for a quarter and burn their cash for a quarter, but if we don't generate ROI, it's going to be a one-time deal. And ultimately, the way the advertiser looks at it is, it says, okay, I know that on print, TV, if I'm running banner ads, it costs me X number of dollars to get a new customer. And that's what they're really, most of them are looking at. How much did it cost me to get
Right.
that new customer? And if I'm selling a product that's a one-time deal at $14.95, it better cost, a lot less than $14.95 to get that customer. So that's where a lot of companies have trouble in the digital space, unless you're a company that has a reoccurring base fee. In other words, you're going to get charged for a product every month or every year. It's something that once you're there, you don't leave, and they can justify that higher initial payout. Oftentimes what I'll find is that we price ourselves right out of the market, because they're used to getting a certain level of of return on their dollar. And if we don't deliver higher than that, they're not going to advertise in space. Unfortunately, there have been some folks that come in, have promised the moon, and really did not deliver. And what will end up happening then is that the advertiser will say, well, this space doesn't work.
Right.
And I think
No, I'm familiar with that.
but
Yeah.
I think we have to be careful with I think as content creators, we have to really understand how much are we really, really worth. If we're building a brand, that's a whole different story than selling a product. Building a brand is about us endorsing a brand and building something and talking about it that have a lifetime of value for that customer. But if
But
you're
see, what you can do though with that, in terms of figuring out your value, is you figure out what people have paid before and if they were happy, and you go from there. That's really
it's true.
there's your metric, right? And so if you don't make that mark, fine. The
But
value of being omnipresent is the fact that I can have 13 things that I could throw at a potential sponsor.
But I think too, though, is what we have to realize is that, sponsors are actually media buyers are used to working in a very, how should I say it, structured world. For years, they've bought banners. They just, they basically fill out a form and they put their buy in, they're done. They've worked in these very linear type of advertising buys that don't require a lot of creative thinking. And even though media buyers are supposedly creative types, largely they're not.
They're data driven.
They're data driven. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, all those guys are
that's
concerned about click throughs
and that's the problem, right?
It is the problem.
I can't tell you how many times someone says, "Chris, I bought a Mac because of you." You know how much money I made from that?
and we understand. I understand that as well as you do. But the thing is, though, in the world that we live today, we have to work within the constraints of the system, or hopefully find companies that are starting to figure out that building brands and engagement and awareness is important. But most companies are old school. They're very tight with their dollars, and guess what? They don't like to risk money on
new things.
I don't blame them.
Things.
But that's the thing. I don't blame them. I mean, I can only promise to deliver with the things that I say that I'm going to do. I'm going to be able to do.
Right.
Sure.
I can never. In fact, I go as far as I can't promise downloads. What I can show you is here's the trends. Here's what I'm going to do to make it work.
Yeah.
And that's as much as I can do.
The guys in the chat room saying my mic is overmodulating. I don't know what's going on.
They said that about an hour ago, dude.
Yeah, and I turned it down. So
speaking of, you said an hour and 15 minutes, so we got about 5 minutes.
Yeah, we do. So, Rob, as we're coming to a close here,
Yeah, Chris, I just wanted to talk about the whole monetization of the vlogging that you're doing. It seems to me, is the more I think about it and the more I watch your show, that product placement may be an opportunity for you more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've sold so many geeky hoodies and apparently tomato basil teas. I'm not making any money from it directly, but that's the case.
Yeah. So that's something that probably
I cover up my car logo because I'm like, why am I going to give them free advertising? I do. I don't.
It makes sense.
Well, I think it's a way that the podcasters can monetize too. I think really popular shows could do that as well. Yeah,
but
I think
that's nothing new. Come on.
No, it's not. But it's not done very often. I mean, people just aren't doing it. I know
because no one's selling it.
I mean, I think most of the monetization that's going on right now is around pre-roll. and
Sad.
It's
the
horrible.
overlay stuff, and we need to move beyond that. I mean, I think that the in-content stuff is much more effective. I know we've talked about this stuff, and we need to continue talking about it, but the in-content advertising is much more effective than the pre-roll and the overlays and all this crap.
Tell you what, you find me
simple.
sponsors, I will create content.
I think
that's the bottom line.
I think they want to, I think most sponsors are looking for something that's creative and good, but the challenge is then, are they willing to, walk up to the table with the right amount of cash?
Well, when someone's got enough mobile users using an application that can be leveraged, enough Twitter followers, enough Facebook likes, enough Google Plus circlers, enough YouTube subscribers, like it's a smorgasbord. It's not just one island in the stream. It's an archipelago.
Chris, what you need to do, and what will help you, and what we found with other clients of ours, is that if you take a client that you've had recently, and then go to them and say, what were your results? Can you give me a testimony, or can you tell me how we performed?
Done.
And use that in your media kit as
done. It's already done. Way ahead of you.
So if you have that, you should, once that is you have that nice media kit, you should not have any problem whatsoever attracting folks to spend money, especially,
it's finding, but that's the problem, is it's finding the people that have to spend money and showing them the opportunities once they have money to spend. That, honest, I'll go back to saying, I'm not a salesperson full time.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't push. So I gotta look for those opportunities as they avail themselves. That's like I said, find a sponsor. I will create the content. I will figure out how to make it work.
Well,
always do, always have, always will.
Send me your latest media kit so I have it on file for sure.
Go.tagjag.com/sponsor.
Okay, say that again.
Send it to you. I've been doing it so long, and it probably sucks, but you know what? It's converted well enough, and I know I could probably do a better job. I'll send you the link. It's just a Google Doc, basically.
Oh, that's fine.
That lists a few of the options as I've laid it out in the past, or just starting points for conversations to tell people, like, I'm not. This ain't no Mickey Mouse operation. Well, actually, I wish it was a Mickey Mouse operation, because then I'd be able to demand higher rates.
Rob, any thoughts as we move forward here?
Well, Chris, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk kind of finally about your vlogger fair. It's what, $29 to attend?
Yeah.
Right? Is that right?
It's probably going to be, it's keyed in June 8th and 9th, Seattle. I mean, it's probably more for the people who live in the Seattle area. I mean, because you have to travel. But here's the thing. We're bringing in top YouTubers. YouTube is one of our primary sponsors. It's happening, and it's going to be a great place to do collaborative work with these bigger vloggers to possibly get more attention for your YouTube vlog. That's kind of the bottom line.
I'm looking at your track here. It looks like it's going to be fun. And
it's not a conference, though. You gotta ignore that.
Okay.
In fact, maybe taking that bottom part down. It's not a conference. It's a fair. And those tracks make it look like it's a conference.
Okay. So what's the difference between a fair and a conference?
You tell me.
I guess you're just having fun.
Yeah, exactly. Holy cow. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Versus going to a conference, going into these speeches or listening to these panels that just people prattle on and on, which I guess is podcasting. What we just did. People you just don't care about. Like, why did I listen to that? Why did I waste 45 minutes of my life? You'd rather be spending time in the hallway with, having fun with it, meeting people, having conversations. And so it's a fair.
No, that's where business gets done at all conferences, in the hallway anyway.
That's right. So let's cut out the chaff and go straight for the wheat.
So it's basically a social networking event in the real world, right?
Yes, pretty much. It's fair.
Sounds good.
All right, guys.
Good.
Well, Chris, I'm going to keep
Chris. Thanks.
Yeah, right to we're a little just under an hour and 15 minutes, but thanks for coming out today.
Oh, sure, not a problem.
And everyone, check Chris Pirillo out on YouTube, or just Google him. You'll find him. He's right there at the top of the search results. If you've got comments about this show today, we'll have a new email address for you next week, but you can send them to either Rob or myself. You can send them at rob@robgreenlee.com or geeknews@gmail.com. And definitely,
and he does have a podcast. It's called the Locker Gnome Daily News?
A Locker Gnome Daily Report, or TLDR.
That's right. Yeah.
And
too long, didn't read.
It's an audio and video podcast, and it's really good. So check it out.
Yeah, and definitely send Chris some comments on today's content. If nothing else, I listened to you, loved it, hated it, whatever, and I'm sure he'll appreciate the
I love the
feedback.
haters. Like I just hate them up.
That's the haters are always the best. That's it.
Those are the people, you want them to either love you or hate you. So I do not mind either way. When someone hates me, I've struck a nerve.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus
They're
being
definitely passionate if they hate you, right?
And they're definitely going to listen because it seems like the haters are always the ones that listen are there to criticize. I do have to ask you one last question, Chris. Have you played Ingress?
No, I looked at it, but I'm like,
Haven't got sucked in,
Hey,
huh?
I haven't played it. And I don't care to play it. Sorry.
I'm not a gamer. I'm a casual gamer. Well, I'm a gamer in that way, but I'm a casual gamer. I'm definitely not. I'm not someone who cares to spend. I'll pick it up, put it down. I don't want to get sucked into anything. I'm having too much fun doing other things.
I find it's pretty fun for a parent that's got kids and you guys want to get out and explore and see cool things. It's that is what I'm using it for. As my kids and I are going hiking and going to different places and seeing things, and I think that was the whole purpose of it. With even
but you're using a Nexus 7.
I'm an iOS guy, so I bought a Nexus 7 just to play the game. So
oh right, because it's Android. Yeah,
it's Android only.
You should have gone with the Nexus 4. The Nexus 4 is an amazing Android device, one of the best out there, if not the best right now.
Yeah, so this is, I just picked this up on a whim, and believe it or not, it's not bad. It's not a bad device for $199. It's better than the Kindle device by far, but in my opinion, again, it's another opinion.
Oh yeah, that doesn't take much.
All right, guys, thanks so much.
Sorry, now I'm saying your opinion takes a lot. I'm just saying that it doesn't take much to beat the Kindle at this point.
Right. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
But I'm still pretty much an iOS guy, but it is Android.
You got to check out. Sorry,
Sure, go ahead.
You're gonna hate me. We went over last time, and I do have to get scooting because I've got a puppy sitter coming over to coordinate. There's an app that launched yesterday called Osito, OSITO, which is basically like a Google Now clone for iOS. Until Google Now is released for iOS, Osito. It's free. It's clean. And it'll in another 30 minutes, or it's gonna stop raining in half hour or whatever it happens to be. Osito, yeah, that's it.
All right, we'll check it out.
Yeah, no, it's free too. I found out about it yesterday. It's pretty cool. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
It's always cool to find cool stuff. So. All right, audience and Chris, thanks for being here. And obviously, most of you listen to this post show. Make sure that you send Chris an email. We need to rattle his chain a little bit.
Rattle my chain.
Send lots of emails to Chris.
All right, guys, thanks so much. And the stream is actually, I'm going to bring the stream down for a little bit. We'll be back in replay after a while here. I'm going to make some audio adjustments because something isn't right on the